Welcome. Oh my gosh. Welcome to tonight. This is going to be so worthwhile. This is the first ever Futurebound Summit showcase. Yeah, round of applause. Tonight is about so many things. It's a first of its kind, the first of a Futurebound Summit, the first time we have a cohort of amazing ideas, of ventures, the first time many of you are in a room together. I am just in awe watching and listening and seeing all the faces and meeting so many people that I've been meeting over the past few months, that I've known for years, people that are walking up to me for the first time. It's like the best thing I could ever expect. Thank you so much for coming. So I am Beth Burke. I'm the director of Futurebound. And it's my great pleasure to have the opportunity to shape this initiative with you, because this is all a co-led and co-designed effort, and we are at the earliest stages. So we are on the forefront of something that we get to build and organize and figure out together, because I don't know what this will be next year or in a few years, but everyone bringing their collective ideas and inspiration and expertise is what this is about. So come on this journey with us, because I know there is great potential here. Tonight wouldn't be what it is without a few thanks. So thank you so much to Gary Community Investments for having the audacious dream so that something like this needed to come into fruition, especially Sam, Gary, and the Gary family for starting their work with what they've done in the community for years. This is truly remarkable. I think other cities and places are saying, we want a Futurebound too. When can we get one? And I think that's so cool. Also, this week is about building relationships and collisions. We want to inspire you, of course, with ideas and what's possible, because often when you're in the trenches and you're feeling that pain and you're like, how do we solve this? How do we make it better? This is frustrating. It shouldn't be this hard. I know we can do better. But this week is about showing the possibilities that exist, because there is great positive thinking and problem solving. All of you are doing it. But it takes sometimes to see people from different backgrounds that have different ideas to help you get that aha and insight. A quick little story this morning, we had the kickoff, and one of the activities was a little game where there were shapes under people's chairs, and I had people stand up and meet people and match shapes. And in that activity, I heard afterwards, one of our ventures came to me and he said, I had a random collision with someone who I matched shapes with. He was the exact person I needed to talk to about this random thing. And who would have thought in that moment the two of them would have collided? So that serendipity, that randomness, those unexpected collisions is what this is about, because you just don't know how you're going to find what you need or when. And Futurebound can help accelerate that. The connections are the power. Because if you don't know what's out there, how are you going to figure it out by yourself? It's really hard. We all know Google, but word of mouth and introductions are just as powerful. So why are we here? I wanted to start with this kind of funny question of, what are the necessary conditions to allow ice to thrive? Ice is a pretty concrete thing. We know it takes 32 degrees to make sure it's cold enough outside or lower. You know, you might have to have policies in place, or businesses might need to do certain things, but we can make sure ice can exist because we know the conditions it needs. But what if we change that to something like child development or children? What are the conditions that are necessary to allow children to thrive? That gets a lot more complicated because there's so many factors to take into consideration. And people have different opinions, and there's different policies and frameworks and structures and families and backgrounds. So what are those conditions? How do we figure that out together? Because our goal is for as many children as possible, really all of them. And we have 1.2 million children in the state of Colorado. Almost 500,000 of them are in underserved families. And we know that's not acceptable because that's our future. They depend on us, and we have the expertise. How do we just build it and collectively leverage it to really support and make the difference? So figuring out these conditions is vital. And they're rooted in this notion that the first 1,000 days of a child's life are critical. So much of what they're experiencing and exposed to, the relationships they develop, the people that are in their lives, their caretakers, the social and emotional landscapes they have in their life affect them. It's such a developmentally ripe and important time. And Futurebound's looking at this much more broadly at the ages 0 to 10 and prenatal, that we think the first decade is vital. And all of you are touching children in a variety of ways, so we know this work matters. Futurebound is a very special idea. It's this notion that we are interconnecting a variety of different segments and sectors together. We're looking at how do people do innovation work? How do people do startups? How are people working in early childhood? How are people building communities? What's happening in hospital systems, education, childcare, research, policy, all these different parts. Futurebound is trying to interconnect and interlock and build bridges and new connective tissue between them so we can see things we haven't seen. This is the opportunity. Who is helping bring this all together and help you work and build together so you can get what you need when you need it? That's what we're here for. We're really up to 3 things right now in Futurebound. One is to catalyze, to be this catalyst. I just mentioned building the bridges, being that glue. Who is helping connect? Helping also articulate this idea of the forest through the trees. When you have that many moving pieces in this giant system across the state of Colorado, it helps when someone is making sense and building opportunities to see the gaps and where can we help really, put new solutions together because people didn't see that was part of the system breakdown. And lastly is enhancing vibrancy for all. Ventures are doing great things, and we define venture very broadly. Ventures are both for-profit and nonprofit and other solutions that exist within organizations that are new and emerging. So venture is a very broad term in Futurebound. And vibrancy is for all organizations. It's about ventures thriving. It's about your organization thriving. It's about families thriving. So to become vibrant means we're healthy, we're high functioning, we're effective. We're finally hitting those levels of quality that we all know we can achieve. So that's what we aim to do. And it's going to take all of us working together. And I couldn't be more excited to be in a room of people like you who care and are passionate and driven. And you showed up tonight because this matters to you. And you are the early adopters who see what this can be. So thank you all for being here. We have a great program in store for you tonight. We have many guest speakers. I want to point out a couple little tactical things before we get started. One, we're using a tool to help build community. So if you haven't seen this yet, in the cover of your packet or your program is instructions on how to join Brella. And why Brella is so unique, it's not just another online tool, and it really is just for the summit, but you will get to see other attendees. And once you join, you can select your skills or expertise and watch what happens. You can note if you're seeking that or offering it or both, and then you hit search. And this is what will appear. You'll see on one side, I selected healthcare, and suddenly Michael and Delon popped up that Michael is offering expertise in healthcare, and Delon is saying, I need help in healthcare. The two of them need to meet. So you know what happened this morning? The two of them met, and it was awesome because that's what we're trying to do. And on the other side is policy. Jennifer was offering it, and Vera said she needed it, and there, because of Brella, we knew the two of them needed to talk. You can find the things that you're seeking, or other people that are looking for you can find you on Brella too. And the other reason we're doing this is to inspire radical collaboration. Radical collaboration is when you are meeting with people you've never met before, and hopefully from different backgrounds and sectors you might not have ever thought to work in. So maybe it's a for-profit and a nonprofit. Maybe it's a new researcher and a policy person and an educator coming together. Anything's possible, but how are you going to find each other? So Futurebound is all about bringing people together, and in these times, both in person or on Brella, try and meet new people. And if you do, we are offering up to 10 $1,000 Visa cards to get you kickstarted. Maybe you want to pay for a little trip to get together and do some work. Maybe you want to pay for a workshop. You can use that Visa gift card however you see fit to get the work started and to dream up new things that you think might really just be interesting, and why not try it? Experimentation is part of this process, and we want new ideas and new relationships to form. So that's our offer to you. You have a couple weeks after the summit to apply for that. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our next guest. His name is Dave Younggren, and he's the president and CEO of Gary Community Investments. Dave has been on the journey with Sam Gary and the Gary family for over 40 years in this work, and he has really held the vision and the collective energy of how do we bring something like Futurebound into existence. So it's because of his determination and dedication that we're even here, as well as with people like Steph and many others that are supporting this. So I'd like to introduce Dave to the stage. There you go. I'm looking at you. Don't need to click. That's what I meant.
I don't know. I appreciate that introduction. Now I'm feeling really old. 40 years of working at this, but really, I'd like to start by just saying thank you to all of you for being here. It really takes everybody coming together, and I think Sarah Beth did a good job of explaining how everybody makes those connections. So I want to start with thanking everybody for being here. I also want to take the opportunity to thank the Gary Community Investment staff. There's been a lot of work put into this. Yeah, there's Sarah Beth, of course, but staff, Kate, Kellerann, Christina, the whole team. There's been so many people that have worked to bring all this together. And then we've got a lot of local and national partners that have really helped us on this journey of trying to make these few days really, really meaningful to all of you. Probably a lot of you know this, but the Piton Foundation has been investing and dedicated in improving outcomes for low-income children and their families in Colorado for over 40 years. And I've sort of been with Sam on that journey. But about 6 years ago, we decided to launch Gary Community Investments. And the reason why was because we realized that philanthropy just could not solve the complex problems that low-income children and their families are facing. And so, to really overcome inequality and the lack of opportunity, we figured that we had to come up with a new way of thinking and investing. And in that way, and Sam always felt this over the 40 years I've been with him, that business and philanthropy have to work together. And then also connect and partner with the public sector. And unless those three sectors connect and come together in ways that are really, really impacting, it's just not going to happen. We're not going to move the dial. So we're really, I guess, fortunate the way we structured Gary Community Investments, that we have a continuum of capital available to us. We can invest philanthropic capital all the way through the continuum to full market rate for-profit capital. Gives us a lot of flexibility to use capital to solve some of these problems in ways that we hope maybe is a little different than just philanthropy. I think the other thing that we did about 6 years ago is say, let's really focus on the youngest, the prenatal to 5 years old, when we know, as Sarah Beth mentioned, brain development is so critical. And so we said, we've got to focus there. But we've got to do it in a two-generational way so that we work with the parents and provide them the tools and the supports so that they can actually give their children the best start in life possible. So that's what we are about and what we've been doing the last 6 years. And it's unfortunate, but Sam Gary and his wife Nancy were scheduled to be here, and it's nothing serious, but because of some health issues, they were not able to attend tonight. But I just wanted to acknowledge them because honestly, without their vision and incredible generosity, none of this would be happening. So I just want to acknowledge them. Okay, all right. Little scheduling snafu. The governor is stuck in traffic and will be here shortly, so we're going to change the ordering a little bit. So I want to say something else about Gary Community Investments that you may not be aware of, and that is that we're a sunsetting organization. And what that means is that we want to invest all of our capital in the community by 2035. And what that does for us is gives us an enormous sense of urgency to really make smart investments in transformative solutions. And we're also investing in platforms and organizational capacity building so that there's a system that lives beyond us, but we certainly want to create transformative change as we're sunsetting. The last few years, we've really put our heads together saying, so how can we catalyze innovation? Because that's what we need. We need to catalyze innovation so that we have the best solutions for young children. And one of those investments is Futurebound. And we're pretty excited about it and hope all you are as well. What you've seen today and what you're going to see tonight is the start, and it is the start of how Futurebound will support ventures, how an ecosystem can foster great teams and a lot of the things that Sarah Beth had said, and smart solutions. And what I think is exciting is about bringing together the smartest people that work in the early childhood sector, the health sector, the technology, universities, entrepreneurs, startups, visionaries, all coming together. And that's really the way we can make a difference. And I think it's got a really potential for a powerful impact on children in Colorado. So tonight we're showcasing 18 ventures, and they're offering a range of solutions. And I for one, am pretty excited. I've read all the materials, but I'm pretty excited about having them share with us what they're doing and what solutions they're bringing to the table. And I know that that there's so many of you in here that are already working in this space, and maybe lots of others that say, how can I join in this effort? And our hope is that Futurebound is something you can connect with now and in the future, and as we go forward. And it'll be the way that you can connect with your peers, that you can find the talent you need, you can find partners to pilot with, you can find access to the right capital to scale and grow your solutions. So that's what our hope is. And I think that we know this is just the beginning, and we know that there's lots of ecosystems all over the country. But this one is the only one that we're aware of that is solely focused and dedicated to children. And our hope is, of course, that if we all work together, and this is just the beginning, and we stay together and we find ways to connect and keep advancing this, that our hope is that we can change the future of child development. So, is he about to walk in? All right. Yes, everybody take a minute, talk amongst yourself. The governor's just about ready to walk in. 2 minutes? Okay. If I had some jokes, I'd tell them, but I don't. And so, so share with your neighbors. Give us a minute or two.
My name is Banks Benitez. I am the co-founder and CEO of Uncharted. We are a proud partner in the Futurebound initiative and this ecosystem. Really honored to be here with our team. Uncharted is a social impact accelerator. We're focused on tackling social issues, not just on growing companies. We work with entrepreneurs that are addressing the biggest social and environmental issues around the United States. We do everything we can to help them succeed. We go to the ends of the earth to support entrepreneurs that are addressing the biggest social issues of our time. We work in child development, urban poverty, affordable housing, workforce development, and a lot of different issues across the United States. We've worked with 160 entrepreneurs in the last 10 years. They've raised $252 million collectively. They've impacted 54 million lives, and we are just so honored to work alongside really pioneering humans, their organizations, and we play a supporting role in their success. We launch initiatives with foundations, with corporations that are pioneering new approaches to social impact. We exist as an organization because we want to change the way the world tackles problems. We think the traditional, antiquated approaches to problem solving are a thing of the past century. We want to be a 21st century problem-solving organization, and that's why we exist, and that's why we are here. Nothing, I think, is a better example of that than Futurebound, which is why we're really excited to be a part of this. We've worked with Gary Community Investments over the last year to help conceive and launch this initiative. The Futurebound team and Sarah Beth, all the staff at GCI, and our team as well. And so we've been working and co-creating to build this initiative this year. Our role in this program, GCI has partnered with us to run the Futurebound Acceleration Lab. This is not, it might look like a traditional accelerator. This is not a traditional accelerator. It's just focused on growing companies. Our job is to help support the growth of an ecosystem. That is our North Star. The Futurebound Acceleration Lab is embedded within this larger ecosystem. Think of it like a collective accelerator. There are 18 ventures you're going to hear from tonight. These are ventures that are getting custom introductions into the ecosystem here in Colorado. They're getting capital, access to pilot sites. They're getting a curated list and introductions to prospective investors, fundraising toolkit, mentorship, and coaches that are helping them on fundraising, on executive leadership, and on their financial model. So really excited. I'm going to be sort of a co-MC alongside Sarah Beth this evening. We have 18 ventures plus a few community partners and innovators to go through. It's not a lot of time. There's a lot of people who are going to come up. They have 2.5 minutes to come up and tell you who they are, what their vision is, what they want to accomplish here in Colorado, and how you can help. So I have to say that it takes a lot of courage for an entrepreneur to come up on stage and share something that is so near and dear to their heart. They spend all of their waking hours focused on this thing, and they're building that. They spend some of their sleeping hours dreaming about this thing. It takes a lot of courage. And so can we just give them some preemptive love right now with a round of applause for all the entrepreneurs? That's good. I think, if I'm totally honest, it's not great. I think we can do better than that. And here's the reason why we can do better than that. Because you come up here on stage and your heart's beating faster and you're a little bit nervous and you're stumbling over all of your words and you're trying to figure out what to say. Are you compelling? Are you inspiring? Are you saying the things that you should say? It's really hard. The nerves are high. The anxiety is high for these entrepreneurs, as it is for me right now. And so I think, well, let me tell you a story. I've been with Uncharted for the last 8 years, and I've learned one big thing. I've learned a lot of things, but one thing that stands out to me, and that is when I am trusted, I am smarter. When I am believed in, I am a far more capable, bigger, better version of myself than if I'm not believed in. And that has been something that has stood out to me, is that there's this concept of if you extend belief to somebody, then they can go do extraordinary things. They can operate at their highest and best use. We have a governor here? Is that right? This is like my main point. Okay. Keep going. That, where was I? What was I talking about? Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to hand the stage back over to Dave. He is going to introduce our governor. I will come back up. I want to get us hyped up for these entrepreneurs. So hold that thought. I'll be right back.
Okay, so trains have cleared out of the way. That's a good thing. I ended, before I was going to make my introduction of the governor, about how Futurebound, our hope is that if we really do this right and all work together, that it's going to change the future of child development. And I happen to know that is totally in sync with what the governor would like to do as well. And it's really my pleasure to introduce him because he's really someone that's championing and delivering for young children. And the other thing that's pretty, I think, really appropriate that he's here is he is also an entrepreneur. And I hadn't noticed this before, but Banks and a lot of these other entrepreneurs are wearing tennis shoes with their suits and sport coat, and so is he. So I mean, I think we've got the right combination. But in addition to an entrepreneur, he's also an education leader, public servant, and Colorado native. You know, after launching several successful companies, Governor Polis committed himself to making sure that other Coloradans have the chance to achieve their dreams by making sure that every child had a chance at a high-quality education. He founded schools for at-risk students, new immigrants. He started nonprofits to help veterans and entrepreneurs. He served on the State Board of Education while he worked to raise pay for teachers and lower classroom sizes for students. And then prior to being elected as governor, he represented Colorado's 2nd Congressional District and served 5 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. This is the one thing I'm really happy to talk about. In Polis's first term as governor, he delivered free full-day kindergarten for all the communities in Colorado. And not only that, he opened up over 5,000 new pre-K slots, in addition to the slots that are there now, which is another big achievement. And what I know, because we really have wanted to partner and have been partnering with the governor, that it ain't over yet. He's got a very aggressive agenda, and it aligns with what we're trying to work on in terms of improving things for young children in Colorado. So, Governor, I thank you for all that you've done so far, and we look forward to continuing to partner with you and make a real difference for young children in Colorado. Please welcome Governor Gerald Polis. Great to see you.
Thank you. Whoa, hello. Thank you for that kind introduction. It's really exciting to see you here today. Gary Community Foundation is such an important partner in all of the work around early childhood education and making sure that kids are prepared for success regardless of their economic background, where they live in our state, and the circumstances of their parents. And it's also exciting as somebody who's a former entrepreneur. I was a co-founder of Techstars. I'm no stranger to these pitches that we're about to get into. I was just looking through the summaries of the different companies that are pitching here today. It's really exciting to me that Gary Community Foundation is focused on creating this ecosystem around companies and nonprofits that can power birth through 5 and early childhood education all the way through the school years. I mean, just looking at some of the innovative approaches that you're using, a lot of innovation really comes from the ground up. It gets replicated, it gets expanded as school districts adopt it, as big companies adopt it, but a lot of it starts with you as an entrepreneur with an idea, working in partnership with others to turn that idea into reality, to provide an educational benefit for kids. And education really needs that innovation. It needs that disruption, right? There's a lot of inertia around the large-scale efforts around how we educate kids, and that creativity gets infused from within and from without. My father is a social entrepreneur in this space. He founded and runs a nonprofit, Starfall, which does early childhood education reading programs, getting into math for K through 3 website. It's an area that I got to work with him on as well. And I was a social entrepreneur and started several charter schools. New America School, which works with the new immigrant population, which I served as superintendent for a couple of years in the early 2000s. 3 campuses in Colorado, 2 in New Mexico, an Academy of Urban Learning in Denver. So it really takes that approach of how do we take a system that often resists new things and find a way to disrupt and create new efficiencies and new ways of doing things that work. Obviously, measuring success is one key element. What are the metrics that you're looking at? In all of these organizations and companies, you're going to look at how you track that. Obviously, the financial bottom line follows the efficiency and production bottom line. What is the new efficiency that you're introducing into the economy? What are you doing better than somebody who did it before? If you can do that, if you can show the value of your service, it saves costs, it adds learning for the same cost, it empowers educators, empowers parents. What are those metrics of how it's doing that? If you can achieve that goal of doing something better than someone did it before, the financial side will follow as you work on the particulars of how that model works. But this value around the acceleration, the incubation that Gary Community Foundation, some of the seed funding provides in this area is so important for this to be able to thrive, because what you have here is what we call a vertical around education that will support an ecosystem of innovation right here in Colorado, a state that's very forward-looking in innovation, right? We have a tech sector, we have biosciences, we have innovative ag technology, we also have education large and small. We have the presence of large companies like Pearson that even do some of their R&D work here in Colorado. And of course, we have many innovative school districts that have partnered with the private sector through P-Tech schools like St. Vrains, through Mesa and Grand Junction, with community colleges and workforce preparation. We're moving towards a skills-based approach to workforce prep and looking at how we can move towards documenting the skills that people have that employers value rather than simply the degrees on their name. So look, you're in this human capital space, you're in the education space, you're doing exciting things, and I just want to say that I'm really excited along with you, because I know that some of you here today are going to be that next level of innovation that's going to scale and really drive systemic change that better serves the people of not just Colorado and not just our country, but really the world, because we're obviously in a global education economy and ecosystem thanks to the advent of information technology. So thank you all for all of your exciting work. Look forward to hearing about these different pitches, and let's go make it happen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, we're about time for pitches. That last comment I was making, believing in people is a precondition of success. How much more successful will the entrepreneurs be tonight if this audience believes in them? How much more successful will this ecosystem be if we believe in the people who are co-creating it? And how much more successful will we be when it comes to taking on the biggest social issues of our time if we believe in the people who are entering into the arena? So the reason why that applause is so important is because it needs to signal the belief that we have in these entrepreneurs. So when the first entrepreneur comes up here in a moment, just erupt in belief of that person, okay? And we have a lot of them coming, so it's gonna take some stamina on your part to do so. Last thing I'll say, and then I'll get off the stage, is that you all as an audience have a choice tonight. The choice is, the first option is that you can sit back and relax and let the wave of inspiration just wash over you. The second option that you have is to recognize the power and agency that you have in your seat, to be a co-creator of this ecosystem, dare I say, maybe even a co-founder of this ecosystem, and that might invite a different response when you're listening to these entrepreneurs. How can you help them? What can you do? What is your role in this process? Our first entrepreneur, her name is Dama. She's the CEO of Manatee. She calls her team the Mana Team. She is 3 for 3. Come on up. She's 3 for 3 on pitch presentations in the last few weeks, which means she is batting 1,000. She's on a streak, and she is a former professional snowboarder. Please welcome Dama to the stage.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for being here. It's pretty hard. No pressure. Thanks. Thanks for the introduction. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. I'll try to keep the energy up. Meet my brother. He had an IQ of 150. He was literally the only kid who thought the periodic table was cool. And he knew the Latin name of every single animal. He was basically Google search before Google search. He also had a mental health disorder, which meant he'd reluctantly go to therapy once a week. Now, despite my parents' best efforts, after 6 years of therapy, no progress was made. And that's because therapy is a 1-hour isolated session within a 168-hour week. But today, my brother represents 15 million kids in the US alone who have a mental health disorder. This has impacted my life, and chances are it has yours too. We spend $8.6 billion a year on therapy for kids, but 50% of families stop going or are not engaged, and 82% of them are not satisfied with the treatment they receive. This is not sustainable. Hi, my name is Dama. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Manatee, and we connect therapists and families one goal at a time. We do this by integrating the session into the daily life of the family. And we have a fully HIPAA-compliant dashboard that helps them set treatment goals that are instantly shared with the family so that everyone's involved. We then gamify this process for kids. They achieve goals, collect points, and can redeem them for fun rewards with the family. Say, own the remote control for 2 hours. We also support them through short, helpful conversations powered by machine learning. And then all of these insights are visualized in a dashboard so that therapists can provide data-driven and effective care. And we've made a ton of progress. We're actually, in the past couple of months, we were funded by Techstars. We built our app and went live with over 1,000 families within 1 month solely through word of mouth. We then launched our therapist platform, and within 1 week we already went live with our first paid pilot right here in Colorado. And today we're actually working with 5 healthcare organizations so large they include Children's Wisconsin, the Children's Hospital of LA, and many others, and they represent 74 clinics and over 1,100 therapists. We also, in the past 3 weeks, did win the Prime Health Challenge in Colorado, the Startup Health Competition in Vegas, and the Digital Health Lab in LA. And the MENA team is growing. So my co-founder and I have 25 years of combined experience in B2B and health tech startups. We know how to execute, and we know how to scale. And we're surrounded by a team of incredible engineers and developers. Now, but more importantly, we actually also really like hanging out together. Now, I know that this is a massive and a massively hard problem, but it must be solved because kids may be 20% of our population. They are 100% of our future. So let's build a future together in which kids like my brother actually get the chance to build the next Google. Thank you.
To the next. Okay. Our next founder to the stage recently received the prestigious Moonshot Award from the University of Minnesota because his idea is so breakthrough for early childhood. He says one of the best things about being an entrepreneur in this space of early childhood and being a dad of 3 is he has a built-in product testing group. Please welcome Delon.
Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Delon with Say Kid. A couple years ago, my son Cal was a happy 4-year-old little boy that loved school so much he named his fish after his teacher, Mr. Barr. So then one day, Cal came home, collapsed on the floor. It was totally inconsolable. Mr. Barr had left, like a lot of underpaid educators do. And he was replaced by a teacher whose my way or the highway just didn't work, which led to behavior reports and ultimately this.
Hi, Don. I've been with Cal most of the day today, and he's totally out of control, disrespectful, disobedient. I need you to come and get him, and he's not going to return. I hope you understand. Thank you. Bye.
This was my lowest point as a human being, because to foster a love of learning, kids need 3 things. They need to feel competent, like they're successful. They need to feel in control, like they have agency. And they need to feel connected. And obviously this wasn't happening. So how do we help every child develop a love of learning and do it in a practical, scalable way? And since we're talking about young kids, how do we do it without a screen? The secret is play. So every day that Cal would come home from school after a hard day, he'd come to me and say, Dad, can we just play? And so we developed a play-based platform that combines voice technology in the form factor of a plush robot to help young kids learn in a safe, natural, and engaging way. Here's how it works. Many of you know that kids learn best when they play the role of teaching, really. So kids actually teach the robot. We use unstructured and structured interaction and conversation to build that agency. And most importantly, we foster those really important early relationships through group play. But we didn't just build this for kids, because although nothing's going to replace amazing educators, the reality is even superheroes need help. We have an awesome team. Scott is an expert in conversational AI. Maria, who's not here, has taught kindergarten for 15 years. And I'm really just a dad that's passionate and persistent about moving the needle in education. A few weeks ago, Harvard's Early Education Initiative named Say Kid one of the organizations with the greatest potential to transform early education. But we couldn't do that without help. So we're looking for 2 things. We're looking for schools that are not afraid to think differently, and we're looking for funders that are not afraid to think big. Because I can't think of something bigger and more important than being able to transform education through the power of play. Thank you.
Pass it off to him. All right, our next speaker is Luis. He comes from Mexico. He built the largest multinational childcare chain throughout Mexico and Colombia. He plays the piano. He is looking for advice on how to persuade his family to move with him to Colorado. And he is here and back with an amazing venture. I'll let him explain.
Thank you, and good evening. I'm here to talk about Kinedu. At Kinedu, we unleash every child's development at scale by fostering enriched and quality interactions between adults and children in their lives. And with me today is Christy, who's our VP of Product. So if you want to figure out more about what we're doing, please, after the 2.5 minutes are up, come talk to us. I'll start with my story. As Bank said, I co-founded a childcare chain in Latin America. And along my role as head of innovation, I talked to hundreds of parents. One of the things I figured out across all the geographies we had is that parents wanted to be involved in their children's development. Sometimes they didn't have the tools, sometimes they didn't have the knowledge or the access or the time to get involved. And it's tragic because 2/3 of children are at home according to OECD. So we wanted to help parents build the confidence and get the tools. So we built Kinedu. 5 years later, Kinedu is an app that is used by over 500,000 parents every month across the globe in 3 languages, in every platform that has access to the internet. Kinedu can be described in 2 simple ways. A set of curated, personalized activity plan that parents watch a video, we model how they play with their kids, and then they go up, leave the app down and play with their kids. And an initial assessment that we have worked and refined, which is a set of milestones. And through data, we've actually found a way to cluster them and ask them to parents at the relevant time, helping us tell parents about the variability in early childhood development, giving them peace of mind, about the trajectory of skill development, such as walking or crawling, or more abstract like imagination. But most importantly, because it's a tool that has been built with the answers of millions of parents across the world, it's relevant for any adult to pick up and use. So when we realized that, we figured that parents are not the only adults that are struggling with their baby's development, with understanding children under their care. Teachers, educators, home visitors can also use an app like this that helps them plan their lessons and helps them plan their activities and understand development. So we're doing exactly that. And we're piloting in Colorado. Right now we have a pilot program with a company called My Village. It's a family care setting. And we're here to ask all of you in the audience, if you know somebody that might want to try this program, that want to try our app, and empower their educators to create more enriching experiences and connect the experiences that parents and children undergo at school to the home, let us know. We're here to help. We're here to collaborate on this ecosystem. So please help us boost development of children everywhere. Thank you.
Okay, next up, this founder has worked with MIT, Lego, Google, and many other small companies you may have heard of before, because he's a master of user research, which means he knows how to study and observe people and understand better why they do what they do. You won't be disappointed. Please welcome Elliot.
Woo! I've got some bad news. Reading is boring. Now, it might not be for you, but at the Boys and Girls Club in Denver, where I work, 1 out of 3 kids hate reading. I want you to think about that. 1 out of 3 kids, every day they have to go to English class, where they don't want to be there, they're not ready to learn, and they have to read a book that they don't like. I want to change that. That's why I created Wonder Stories. It's a reading app that helps kids love reading. Now you might be wondering, how do I measure love of reading? Well, I made a sensor at MIT Media Lab that measures the love for reading. It worked out really well. And so for the last 4 years, I've worked with 200 kids at the Boys and Girls Club looking at that experience. I want to share with you what I found. Now on the next slide, I think, but on the next slide, I'm going to show you the emotional graph of a 3rd grader English language learner as he reads The Voyages of Dr. Dolittle. I knew it was going to be me. And I don't want to talk about the hair. Okay. There we go. Okay. See that one spike over there? That's the one time he emotionally reacts while reading the book. By the end, he actually falls asleep on the book. There's a drool mark on my book now from this experiment. Now, those type of kids are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. I want to show you another graph of this exact same third grader, but instead of reading Dr. Dolittle, he's reading Wonder Stories. Every one of those spikes is him emotionally engaging, thinking critically, reacting, identifying as a reader. Now you're probably wondering, okay, what's the difference? How did Wonder Stories do that? Well, we came up with a simple design insight. You see, reluctant readers, even though they don't like reading, you know what they love doing? Math, boys and girls. And so, with Wonder Stories, we make reading feel more like math. But I want you to think about this. In math, we give them challenging questions, critical thinking, and instantaneous positive feedback. They can identify good at math. In reading, that doesn't happen. So we stuff Wonder Stories full of problems, mysteries, and critical challenges. Kids are able to take the steering wheel. They're able to be the detective, and it's working. We have kids reading the full 20 minutes, asking for more. We're creating an engaging experience. I've got some asks. If you're a teacher or an administrator, I want to talk to you. I need to get this into 100,000 people. So I want to end with the notion that we put a lot of resources and time into teaching kids to read. I think it's about time we also help them love to read. Thank you.
So we're going to switch gears for just a moment because in addition to the 18 ventures we have, there are 3 community presenters too. There are many types of innovators in our ecosystem, and we wanted to highlight some of those stories to share and demonstrate how broad Futurebound really is. So next up is a dream maker. She's a 9-year-old named Luciana, and she's part of Dream Tank. Dream Tank's an organization in Boulder that empowers youth to be social entrepreneurs and to solve the greatest challenges of today. And she happens to love sequins like me. So please welcome Luciana. Come on up here. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy. My name is Luciana Monroe, and I am 9 years old, and I go to a school in Longmont called Flagstaff Charter Academy. I enjoy drawing and outdoor activities. I am here because I'm one of the 33 kids that entered a Dream Tank Accelerator to come up with one or more ideas of how to solve a problem in the world. I got half a scholarship for Dream Tank. Dream Tank's mission is to inspire and empower kids around the world. Dream Tank wants to help kids launch their own businesses. Let me tell you why Dream Tank is doing this. Kids and teens have the best imaginations on the planet. We can think outside the box. We can see things that are not helping our planet. Me and my peers were born using technology. Let me tell you what Dream Tank does. When I was in Dream Tank, I was asked to do a project to come up with one or more ideas of how to solve a problem in the world. My idea was to have 17 puppets talk about the United Nations 17 Development Goals. I was especially interested in composting and recycling. The puppets would tell kids, teens, children, anyone who could understand that composting and recycling should be one of their everyday life routines. When my 5-year-old brother Alistair saw me working on my presentation, he was excited and asked if he could do one too. So I helped him put together a presentation and then emailed it to Dream Tank. Other programs that Dream Tank has is the Dream Tank Accelerator, the Design Challenge, and the Microloan Program. Let me tell you what Dream Tank's mission is to accomplish next year. Dream Tank believes in sustainable models, whether you are nonprofit or for-profit. Dream Tank needs help building a membership model. Dream Tank is raising $250,000. Email Heidi just like I did with my brother's presentation if you want to help her. Join us at our next program, Hacking for Heroes, where kids help veterans. Hacking for Heroes will be the 25th through the 26th of November. Follow us on Instagram and come launch dreams with us.
Our next presenter, her name is Carly. She is an expert whitewater kayaker, knows how to roll a kayak. She's also built a smart pacifier, which helps babies communicate without words with adults. Please come on stage, Carly.
Thank you. That is a tough act to follow, so thank you, Luciana, for representing the kids here. I'm Carly Kislisnik. I am the founder of Brainchild Technologies, and that is not my slide, but I'm going to keep going. So I'm using my PhD in neuroscience to work on a new way to detect hearing loss. Other way? Thank you. To detect hearing loss in infants. This is crucial because every day without hearing loss is less time in that short window to learn language. It's so important that most states have strict mandates and dedicated resources to make sure every single child is screened for hearing loss as soon as possible and right at birth. However, in Colorado, only 36% of those families actually follow up on those newborn screening results. Colorado has one of the worst loss to follow-up rates, but this is a common problem in a lot of states. An even bigger problem in hearing is all this large population of kids who develop hearing loss at some point after this one-time screening at birth. This is really frustrating because we have good interventions for this. If a child receives something like a hearing aid before 6 months, they can avoid long-term language delays. And the problem that it's just hard to recognize a child has a hearing loss in the first place. There's a fundamental gap in hearing screening technologies for early childhood because children can't tell you if they hear a sound. Instead, we rely on these really expensive medical devices. They're not a true test of hearing, and they're typically limited to a hard-to-reach specialist office. What we're trying to do is fill in this gap in early childhood hearing screening so it's accessible for every child, doing this by a behavioral measure, which is a gold standard. This is a better quality assessment and reduces the reliance on those expensive devices so we can open up to that new market of everyday caregivers. For infants, we're doing that by measuring sucking behavior in response to sound. It sounds a little weird, but sucking is the one behavior a baby can control from birth, and they will naturally change this when something like a sound catches their attention. So researchers have used this for language studies, and if you were at the film screening, there was a quick clip of a baby doing this. So we're taking that established research tool and making a low-cost version with our smart pacifier. It measures the baby's sucking rates and allows them to use this to control images or sounds on a connected device. The first one we're going to connect it to is an app that presents the calibrated sounds of a hearing test. We'll have a low-cost smart pacifier and then a monthly subscription to the hearing screening platform, like some of those new smartphone-based hearing tests for adults. What we're looking for as we're doing the research is clinical research partners from an upcoming NIH grant, pilot sites for early intervention, and connection to investors who might be interested in future matching funds from the National Science Foundation. Thank you guys very much for listening.
All right, coming up next, this founder started as a lawyer because he thought he wanted to be a superintendent. And somewhere along the way, he went into consulting and became a father. And then he has now created an AI-powered reading tutor. Please welcome Adam.
Good evening. I'm Adam Porsch with Amira Learning, also a Colorado native, and it's an honor to be here with you all tonight. Amira is the first AI-powered automated reading tutor, able to listen to students while they read, assess mastery, and provide real-time coaching and feedback for developing readers. Reading is life's most important skill. If a child's not reading by the end of 3rd grade, they face a lifetime of decreased opportunity. Those kids are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. They're 60% more likely to be unemployed, and they will earn 1/3 less over their lifetime than their peers. Unfortunately, many students now face a deep practice gap and don't get the one-on-one attention and teaching and tutoring that they need to become good readers. In Colorado, 60% of 4th graders are behind. That number hasn't changed in the last 25 years. Amira is here to solve that problem by being every child's always-on, infinitely patient, highly trained reading tutor. Amira helps teachers in 3 fundamental ways. First, Amira automates assessment, saving teachers over 100 hours of time spent in assessment and administrative tasks each year, time that they can then spend focused on instruction. Second, Amira tutors, selecting from over 25 different reading science-backed interventions in real time. And third, Amira reports, generating actionable insights for teachers, parents, administrators, and others. But the most important thing to know about Amira is that she's effective. In field trials across the country and around the world, Amira generated tremendous impacts for developing readers, from 0.6 to 1.2 standard deviations effect size. That's on par and in some cases better than an individualized human certified tutor for every child. We're looking for at least 3 districts across Colorado to join us as pilot partners, joining leading districts from across the country, including Miami-Dade, New York City Department of Education, the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, and Stockton Unified. We're also looking for foundation partners to help us with practice-based R&D, to deepen our impact with specific subpopulations, and improve our support as a professional development tool for teachers. Together, we can change that opportunity equation for those 60% of Colorado children to help all of them become masterful, motivated readers. Thank you.
All right. I want to see if we can bring the energy up a little bit with these applause, the belief in these entrepreneurs. The next entrepreneur coming up to the stage, I have to say, no one in Guatemala has ever received the UNICEF Innovation Fund Award until Andriana received that award. Her name, Andriana, is a combination of 2 names, Andrea, which means success, and Anna, which means charm, which is exactly the type of business she's building as well. Please give a warm welcome for Andriana.
Hi everyone, my name is Andriana, and I'm the founder of Afinidata. A few years ago, I met a child in rural Guatemala, and I asked her, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" She looked at me and said that the only opportunity she will have will be to become a farmer. That answer inspired Afinidata. The first 6 years of a child's life are a wonderful opportunity to completely transform a child's future. But today, over 200 million children from low-middle income communities fail to reach their potential in cognitive development. A very successful model into improving child development are home visit programs, where experts in child development visit parents and teach them activities to do with their babies. However, having thousands of home visitors going home by home is hard to scale. And home visitors themselves often report needing new tools to support their interventions and enroll new families. But imagine a world where each parent could have their own expert in early childhood development at home anytime they need it, guiding them on how to provide the best head start for their babies. This is what Afinidata does. Afinidata uses the power of artificial intelligence to equip each parent with an early childhood expert right within the channels they rarely use, social media, like Facebook Messenger. Thanks to our unique algorithm that learns from each child and recommends the best content, we have earned the recognition from top organizations around the world, like UNICEF. And we have brought Afinidata to over 40,000 families in Latin America. But we're excited to bring it to Colorado as well. So we're asking you, if you are an in-home program or you are a school and you want to partner with us, please talk to us. But also, if you know a family with a child under 5, please invite them to visit afinidata.com and join our mission so together we can unleash each child's full potential so they have the power to decide what they want to be on the future. Thank you very much.
The next entrepreneur is a bit of a personal story for me because I met Jacob about 5 years ago when I was working at Denver Public Schools in the Innovation Lab. And we actually sat down at a coffee shop up in Uptown, and he showed me an early stage model of Music Quest. And here we are years later, and our paths intersect again, and I couldn't be prouder to see the progress he's made. So please welcome Jacob.
Hi, I'm Jacob, and yes, I've been working on this for more than 5 years, actually. The problem with music education is that we don't have enough of it, and we're not going to have enough of it. And that's sad. And it's problematic for children, because music education helps children learn to read, it helps them with math, it helps them with their emotional literacy. There's research that backs all this up, and then we also know that to some percentage of children, music is a source of absolute joy and passion. They find a place to go, a thing to do, something that sticks with them for their whole life. And when we don't provide it, they don't get that. And we're not providing it in the United States. And even if we could get every kid in Colorado access to music education, which would be an extraordinary effort, it wouldn't do anything for the rest of the country. And even if we could get every kid in the United States access to music education with instruments and through the traditional model, there would still be nearly 1 billion kids worldwide that currently have very little access to music education. And so we face a hard reality, which is that our current system is not going to scale. Fortunately, we've put supercomputers in the pockets of essentially every parent in the planet, or they'll be there soon. These digital devices can be gateways to musical creativity. And Music Quest started with the insight that they are instruments, that they can produce sounds, they can be touched, and they can make music. And that gives us a chance to give every kid in the world access to music education. Now, to get there, it's been 5+ years, right? 320,000 people we've reached so far, 120 countries, 2.4 million songs. Also 1.3 million in funding from the National Science Foundation, 250,000 from the state of Colorado, thank you, for your taxpayer dollars. Because we would not be able to do it without. And this system, Music Quest, runs on any device. It can go into the home, a school with music, a school without, and it can scale. And there are a lot of outcomes from that, but the most important outcome is, that guy right there, holding up his song and saying, look at what I made. Look at what I can do. And having the self-esteem and the pride and seeing their parents or their teachers, the adults in their lives say, oh my God, that's amazing. So, we're Music Quest. We'd love to help you increase access to music education in your communities. Maybe it's for yourself or your kids or someone you know. Thank you very much.
Thanks, come on down here. All right, Sarah is our next presenter. She has spent 20 years studying toxic stress in kids and is convinced that solutions are not coming along fast enough. And it's a personal problem for her too, because she has 2 young kids and those kids cannot wait. And so she's building a company to solve it. A new friend of mine, please welcome Sarah.
Thank you. All right. Are we excited? Are we pumped up? This is so fun. You know why it's fun? Because people are in love with problems. And when you're in love with problems, you're not afraid. So don't be afraid about what I'm just about to tell you. Stress is literally killing us. The type of stress that leads to 7 of 10 of the leading causes of death starts in the womb. We have known this for 2 decades. We have known that if you experience chronic and severe stress in childhood, it can take 20 years off your total lifespan. That means if you were supposed to live to 80 and you experience chronic and severe stress in childhood, you now live till 60. This is a prevalent and increasing problem. At this point, the US is 43rd and declining in life expectancy. That means a kid that's born today is expected to live less long than a kid who was born 3 years ago. Okay, so 73% of kids have experienced at least one adverse childhood experience, but 15% of kids are at risk for stress-related illness. How am I going to find those kids? How am I going to find that 15%? I can't use a screening tool like a questionnaire because that stress hides under their skin. Let me introduce you to Recalibrate Solutions. Brian Bagwandan is a medical device engineer with decades of experience in field-based medical device development. And I'm Sarah Watamura. I'm an expert in this space. What we envision is a new way to think about childhood wellness. We have designed an assessment tool that can be used by anyone, by doctors, by teachers, by parents, to figure out if a kid is on track, if their stress system is developing normally, or if they're in need of intervention. And if they're in need of intervention, to match them with that intervention and see if it works. Because if we don't fix what's going on under their skin, we aren't going to break the link between stress exposure and lifetime disease. We need $1 million to do this, because guess what? A medically compliant device is expensive, but $1 million isn't that much money. And what we're going to do with it in 9 to 12 months is put a beta system in the hands of researchers who are going to get us the evidence we need to get this out to every single kid. We can make a device that takes 5 minutes to use and $5 to run. Let's get it done. We are all in, and we hope you will join us. Recalibrate Solutions.
Can we give a big round of applause for our first 9 entrepreneurs tonight? We're going to take a 10-minute break, so look at your watches right now. My watch says it is 6:52. We're going to come back in 10 minutes. So stretch your legs. Entrepreneurs over here, come and say hi to them. We'll be back for the next pitches in about 10 minutes.
We have 9 more entrepreneurs to hear from, and we also have a couple more community presenters, so stick around. Next up, our presenter got her start in maternity care as a doula, and she supported the delivery of over 100 births across the Front Range. So I'd say she knows a thing or two about babies. Please welcome Judith with Baby Scripts.
Thank you. Everybody's feeling refreshed. I can see it in your eyes and your hands. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. My name is Judith Nowlin, and I'm the Chief Growth Officer at Baby Scripts. I'm accompanied by my co-founder and CEO, Anish Sebastian. And at Baby Scripts, we create new models of prenatal and postpartum care through remote patient monitoring. And we have one mission. That's healthy pregnancies for all mothers, especially the most vulnerable among us. We know that that's important because for healthy and thriving children, it starts in pregnancy with healthy and thriving moms. Now, unfortunately, in the United States today, we don't do a great job of taking care of our new moms. And Colorado is no exception. In fact, 80% of our maternal deaths in the state are preventable. And for every single maternal death, there are 50 times more near misses. So at Baby Scripts, we actually work through remote patient monitoring to solve that problem, bringing some care into the home. Let me tell you about how Baby Scripts works. Let's pretend that I'm pregnant, which I've been 3 times, so we're not actually doing that again. But for right now, we'll just pretend. And I head into my first doctor's appointment. My doctor will prescribe me the Baby Scripts app, which is like a daily care companion that has all the most clinically validated information direct from my doctor to me. And then I will be assessed for my risk condition. Anything from diabetes to hypertension to to diabetes, to hypertension, to low risk, to socially economic at risk. And I will then be put on one of the Baby Scripts modules. If I'm put on one of the Baby Scripts modules that monitors blood pressure, I will be shipped a mommy kit, which is that bright pink box that you see there. Inside is a Bluetooth-enabled blood pressure cuff and internet-connected weight scale. If I am healthy and low risk, this will enable me to come into my prenatal appointments fewer times, which opens up the access to care to the high-risk moms who need it most. All of that data will then feed through our proprietary algorithms and surface up as triggers back to my care provider in real time, so that then we can be identified with our high-risk situations much more quickly than otherwise if we waited to our next appointment 2 to 4 weeks from now. We're here in Colorado looking to scale and looking to build more healthcare partners through health systems, hospitals, and large OBGYN practice groups. We're also in the middle of a funding raise. And so if you want to join with us on our mission of better pregnancies for all, we invite you to give us a ring. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Our next speaker is Jamie. In the 2nd grade, she started planning to buy her first car. What were you guys doing in 2nd grade for you? She left her corporate job so that mothers could keep their corporate job, and she brings that planning and expertise into Bridge Care. Please welcome Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie Herbert, CEO and co-founder of Bridge Care. And in 2016, I got married, I got my MBA, and that's when I started to feel like I had to choose between pursuing my career and starting a family. And as it turns out, I wasn't alone, because when childcare costs as much as a mortgage payment, it's not surprising that already 50% of millennials, moms and dads, have left a job due to caregiving challenges. But it's not just these families that are hurting from the childcare crisis. It's also costing their employers in their valuable talent, their future leadership, and over 30% of each person's salary just to replace them. What often gets overlooked is that companies also equally count on access to quality childcare, and they must be a part of the solution. That's why we created Bridge Care. With one streamlined solution, we provide a solution for the top 2 reasons for this turnover: finding and affording quality childcare. So first, we help parents identify and enroll in the best quality childcare available, including summer camps, after-school programs, and preschool. And using AI, we're able to provide the most robust and up-to-date information available nowhere else. Then we help parents afford that quality care with an easy and intuitive pre-tax flexible spending account. Our FSA simplifies enrollment and automates expense submission, helping parents leverage their underutilized tax benefits to save up to 35% on their dependent care expenses. Yes. And best of all, you haven't even heard it yet, it's a win-win-win model, because when parents use their pre-tax benefit, companies save on tax benefits, save on their payroll taxes, and we charge them a portion of that tax savings. So quality, excellent family benefits can be available for every company of every size. There's no longer an excuse to not participate in supporting the workforce in this major problem. So we are thrilled to be coming here to Colorado and expanding our offering. We want to talk to every single company that's interested in offering great family benefits. We're also looking to talk to other organizations that are already doing great work here to engage in family-friendly organizations and companies. And we want to participate in creating access for everyone, not just with employers, to access to quality childcare. So please, this is a big, big problem, and we need a lot of partners in this solution. Please come talk to us. We are Bridge Care, and we are making the workplace work for parents. Thank you.
How do we know if children are learning? Assessments are such a big deal, but how do we know if preschoolers are learning? There really aren't assessments for that yet. Tammy is working on an assessment for preschool, and it's very incredible. Please welcome Tammy.
I'm Tammy Kwan, co-founder and CEO of Cognitive Toybox. I started this organization 4 years ago, and it was spun out of a National Science Foundation grant from NYU, specifically to understand what the biggest pain points are for early childhood educators in the field and how research and technology could better support them. As part of this work, I spoke to over 100 early childhood administrators, teachers, and families. And what I heard over and over again was about the challenge of early childhood assessment, a practice that has not changed in over 30 years. Teachers today spend 4 to 6 hours per week observing children, taking notes on their development, and then after class, and on nights, and on weekends, transcribing those notes into a digital record-keeping system. This process is onerous for teachers, and the data collected is not trusted and not actionable, since it's reviewed by programs just 3 times per year. Our team of researchers, game developers, and educators thought that there had to be a better way. And we received grant funding from the National Science Foundation and the Department of Education to do just that. So what are we building? Games, assessment games. Cognitive Toybox is the first hybrid assessment solution, enabling teachers to do a combination of both observation-based and game-based assessments. Children play our adaptive touchscreen games for 5 minutes per week, and teachers automatically get information to understand where their students are and how to best support their instruction on a weekly basis. We're not only saving teachers 3 hours per week, we're also uncovering new insights on student development. Meet Chloe. She's a 3.5-year-old child from Brooklyn, always with a bun in her hair. Chloe doesn't speak very much in class, and her teacher assumed she was behind in language development. But after reviewing the Cognitive Toybox results, what her teacher realized was that not only does Chloe have a large vocabulary, she's also a math whiz, and regrouped her appropriately. Imagine if Chloe's teacher did not have access to the Cognitive Toybox results. Chloe might still be in the delayed group, be bored in school, and start kindergarten behind. Cognitive Toybox is committed to making assessment easy and actionable for teachers, and we would love to expand in Colorado. We're looking for 3 types of education partners: family child care providers, Head Start programs, and pre-K programs. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jared. The most important thing you need to know is that he was a childhood star, starring on multiple commercials, including those on Disney and Monday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken. The second thing you need to know is that he is here in Colorado so he can ski. And he said to me today, "I'm here to shred," is what he said. He is also one of the leaders of Bright by Text, the only nonprofit in the Acceleration Lab. Please welcome Jared to the stage.
Thanks, Banks. Hi, everyone. My name is Jared Wigdor, and I am thrilled to introduce you to Bright by Text. Bright by Text is here for any parent or caregiver of a young child, because raising a child isn't easy, but it doesn't have to be hard. My CEO, Gene McSpadden, and I are here, and we'd be thrilled to talk with you about how we can partner together to grow this program. But first, I bet you can hear this picture, right? I bet most of you know that caring for a colicky infant or a tantruming toddler is stressful and exhausting. You probably also know there are a lot of community organizations that offer a myriad of support services that go underutilized simply because families aren't aware they exist. When parents and caregivers seek out information, they are overwhelmed by the volume of resources available, but underwhelmed by their quality and trustworthiness to use them with their family. That's why there's Bright by Text. Bright by Text allows caregivers to receive text messages in English or Spanish 2 to 4 times per week based on their child's age, guiding them through those critical early developmental windows. They can also receive community messages about local services and events that support them on their parenting journey. Bright by Text is a whole child, whole family service focused on supporting the competence of the development of children, the confidence of caregivers, and the connections between caregivers and children and between families and community. A recent evaluation has demonstrated that we are meaningfully impacting all 3 of these key indicators, so now is the time to scale. We are currently serving 14,000 parents and caregivers across the state of Colorado, for whom this service is and will always be free. Standard message and data rates may apply. We are partnered with 3 community organizations that pay an annual license fee to custom brand the platform for the families that they're serving. And by next year, we plan to scale to at least 20,000 families, working with at least 8 of these community organizations. Now, how can you help Bright by Tech scale? I'm so glad you asked. The first thing is through financial investment. We're seeking philanthropy and debt investment to help close the gap for our generating, self-sustaining, annual recurring earned revenue. The second thing you can do is introduce us to partner organizations that can leverage this platform to work with the families that they serve. And finally, sign up for Bright by Text. Text BRIGHT to 27448 and enter the due date or date of birth of a little one in your life. Together, we can make Colorado the best place to raise a child. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have another community presenter. This time it's Tools of the Mind, and they have received critical acclaim and media attention for their effectiveness in prestigious journals and articles. Because executive function is a very big deal. It's how we make decisions and set goals and regulate ourselves. And teaching that in little kids is so important, and that's what Tools of the Mind has figured out how to do in a very meaningful way. Please welcome Deborah to the stage.
Hi. Thank you so much. So, let's see. My name is Deborah Liang, and I'm co-founder and president of Tools of the Mind. And actually, I was a professor at Metro State University, it's a university now, and for 37 years, and actually began working on Tools of the Mind at that time. I was very interested in the idea that we developed tools to combat the idea of the pedagogy of poverty. The pedagogy of poverty is the belief that poor children learn in a different way than other children. They need more drill because they don't know any facts. They need to have less play. So we developed tools because we felt that what was really important is the development of executive functions. And these are the underlying skills that help you learn anything. And it also affects social emotional development in children as well. So we developed a program that's whole child oriented, it's play-based, and it turned out as we developed this program that executive functions are actually more highly correlated with academic achievement than IQ, social class, parent education, or even entry literacy skills. And it has a big effect on children's adjustment in school and their level of stress. So we've been around since 1992. We've had many randomized controlled trials done on our program. And I think we've shown that not only can executive functions be affected in a classroom, but most important that those effects last longer than the content differences in children. So what we're working on now is, even though we were able to do this, one of the things that we couldn't get rid of was ability grouping in kindergarten. So if you remember ability grouping, the turtles who are actually, and teachers claim that children don't know that the turtles are the lowest group, actually builds into the classroom inequities in learning, because the children in the turtle group read books like buttons, buttons, green buttons, red buttons, and the children in the higher group get to read about octopuses and things like that. So in the tools program, our program has multi-level activities, and children get the support that they need. So what we did is we developed an app that supports reading and has embedded executive functions in it. So I'm running out of time. It also produces a dashboard for the teacher. And so what we're doing now is working on with a group at Stanford. We have a partnership with the Institute on Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence, and we're developing an embedded assessment in our reading program. Thank you.
We're going to hand it right over here. Our third community presenter tonight. Contrary to public opinion, government can be innovative, and there are innovators in government. And our mayor of Denver has a major initiative coming out around children. And the executive director of the Office of Children's Affairs, Dion, is going to tell us more about that. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Dion Williams, and I'm the Executive Director in the Mayor's Office of Children's Affairs. In our office, we do work from everything from birth all the way up through college and career readiness for kids. And there's a lot of initiatives that we work on every year, from transportation and mobility to workforce readiness to after-school programs. And one of the things that has become kind of a rising crisis in our city that you heard about earlier was lack of access to quality childcare. And not only access, but also affordability. We know that we are at crisis levels in our city for not having enough childcare slots across the city to serve the need of Denver families. One of the things that we do is collect data every year. We put out a report called The Status of Denver's Children, and we have been looking at the existence of childcare deserts. You can see in the map, this is this year's map that's in our book, that all over the city, we have places where there just isn't enough childcare. We have childcare facilities closing, and we know that our provider pipeline is drying up. There's just not enough people going into the field to provide the number of slots that we need. So what we're working on, what we launched about a year ago, is a task force in the city to really look at how we can bring together partners at the table, everything from developers to childcare experts to city leaders, to really figure out how we can reduce the cost of childcare, how we can expand the number of slots, how we can also increase the types of childcare that are available, and to really look at how we can encourage young people and small business owners to go into childcare as a small business opportunity and really provide that pipeline that's missing. We're also looking at how we can leverage city resources and city facilities to develop childcare facilities, looking at how we partner with developers to make it affordable and profitable to open a childcare facility when they're bringing a new development to Denver. Right now, we have just launched a 3-month study. We're looking at all of the different cost factors for childcare. We're looking at what other cities have done and really thinking about funding strategies and how we can leverage city resources to really expand access. So over the next year, we'll be looking to anyone here who's interested in being part of this task force to really think about some innovative solutions to increasing childcare access and make sure that families aren't having to make those tough decisions between whether they buy groceries or have a childcare provider in their home. So that's what we're working on.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Amy. She came through the first early childhood program, Accelerator, that GCI and Uncharted ran back in 2016, which means she's a pro. When we were designing the Futurebound Acceleration Lab, we said, what would it take to have 18 Amys? And that was the standard by which we selected these organizations. If that gives you any sense of how extraordinary she is. She first got involved in the education space because she moved to Vietnam, taught herself how to ride a motorbike, and then volunteered across the country working in education. Please welcome to the stage, Amy.
Hi everyone, my name is Amy Shaw. I'm the CEO and co-founder of PikaPack, and alongside me is Lisa Kardash. And our mission is to help teach skills like self-regulation and empathy and make it not a nice to have, but a need to have for our youngest learners. So we work with pre-K to 5th grade educators. And when you think about social emotional learning skills, which is what we're teaching, the big problem is there are a number of challenges that educators face. We know it's important. We know that this will help students be able to cope with anxiety, be able to succeed in their academics, but yet we found 3 major barriers. The first barrier was, at the end of the day, it was never a priority because core academics like ELA and math are a priority. And so often educators ended up finding that they had to make it a nice to have, something that they went to if they can make time and not necessarily prioritize it. The second area is that they lacked know-how, and the third area is that they needed parents to be on the same page. So what we did at PICA-PAC is that we designed our solution to overcome these barriers. We made social emotional learning embedded in core curriculum as part of an ELA and literacy-based curriculum. We also embedded PD with our lessons and made it turnkey so teachers feel confidence in bringing this into their classroom. And then we also created a whole parent curriculum that's engaging in both English and in Spanish. Lastly, we wanted to make social emotional learning extremely fun. And so we have an engaging experience for young learners with our interactive learning game where we're able to teach these skills but also monitor progress. And as a result, we've been able to scale PICA-PAC to across the country with 250,000 educators, students, and parents accessing our program across school systems, after-school programs, and also library systems. We're excited to be here today as one of our earliest partners was actually Denver Public Schools, and we're completing some research, and we're looking to expand our impact in Colorado and increase also our research and our scale. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, we've heard a lot tonight about services targeted directly for children, but what about the early childhood educators? Professional development is a critical piece for them as well to help support their ability in the classroom. Abby is from the University of Florida, and she's been working on an initiative there, and she's raised over $46 million to work on this project because building new skills and credentials for this field is critically important. Please welcome Abby.
Good evening, everybody. I used to be from the University of Florida, which would mean that I was wearing like flip-flops and shorts this time of year, but now I live in Denver. Still, I'm sort of adjusting to this whole weather change. But thank you so much for being here. I feel like I should have some dancing bears or some fireworks or something to keep you entertained this late in the game. But instead, what I'm going to talk about is the early childhood workforce. So we know a lot about all the brain science. Many of you know that. That's why you're here. And nowhere is the delta bigger between what we know and what we do than what we do with the early childhood workforce. The single most important thing that we can do to close the achievement gap, help people get good jobs, stay out of jail, all of those things is high quality early learning experiences. And yet the early childhood workforce makes on average $10 to $11 an hour, 40% access food stamps and other public benefits. There's 30% turnover every year, which has a huge impact on the lives of young children. And we don't do anything at all to value this workforce in the way that we need to. So what Early Wins is all about is about changing that story and how do we create professional development experiences and resources for the early childhood workforce to give them the skills that they need to really maximize those early years. And so what we have done is build very user-friendly, evidence-based, high-impact tools that are on people's mobile phones. They're designed in partnership with early childhood teachers. We knew if we built this with the university with a bunch of academics, it would fall totally flat because no one really cares what an old guy in France thought about young kids 100 years ago. What they really want are tools that will help them immediately to meet the needs of the young children that are in their classroom. This platform works with family, friend, and neighbor caregivers, family child care providers, center-based caregivers, and school-based teachers, infant, toddler, preschool, up through pre-K. So 5 years ago, I did this pitch, and people would say, do you really know how to do this? And I would say, of course we do. But we didn't really, frankly. I can tell you that now. What we knew how to do was we knew what teachers needed. We had lots of partnerships with teachers, and we knew what young children needed. We also knew that far too much professional development was a path to nowhere, sort of like that bridge to nowhere from a number of years ago, and didn't take people to where they ultimately needed to go. What Early Wins does is help to systematically build the skills of the teachers in small incremental units. It's credit bearing, so people can get micro-credentials and college credit so that they can further their degree path. And we build the skills of teachers as well as their coaches, because we know that coaches don't have the resources that they need to provide coaching. We built the V1 in Florida. We built over 700 hours of content. We've served over 70,000 teachers. We've delivered almost 1 million hours of professional development across the state. In both Florida and Louisiana, and then smaller projects in other states. What we've learned is that we not only can change the skills of teachers, but we can improve program quality, and we can also improve child outcomes. And an evaluation by Yale measured all of those things. And so now that we've outgrown the university, which frankly was getting really greedy about indirect rates and things like that, we're now taking this outside, and we're going to rebuild the new V2 here in Colorado. And so what we're looking for are partners to help us design that for the Colorado workforce. We know writ large what the workforce needs, but we really want to design a white label tool that can work for Colorado partners to implement, sort of like we're like the Intel inside, but you know your providers best in your communities. And we're also looking for mission-driven funders to help us with our next raise. So thank you.
Our next presenter has entrepreneurship in his DNA. He started a 6-figure e-commerce business when he was 16 years old. He's got a quiet strength, a deep wisdom, the dark horse of the cohort. He also has the battle wounds to prove that he is a world-class mountain biker. Please welcome to the stage, Caleb from Boogaloo Beds.
Last year, I met a boy named Josh. He's fun, smart, and loved by his family, but he also has autism, and this makes Josh's life a little bit harder. He has a lot of issues calming down and often only gets a few hours of sleep a night. To help people like Josh, I founded Boogaloo Beds along with my partner, Kevin. Kevin sits on the National Autism Society board, and his past startup, Autism Pro, grossed over $10 million in its first 3 years. As Banks mentioned, I founded a 6-figure e-commerce business when I was younger, so I have a lot of experience bringing products to people's hands. I was also part of SendGrid's Scale Up through IPO, and my inspiration comes from a good friend named Ben, who had Down syndrome and I was his peer helper growing up. Together, Kevin and I hope to tackle the following challenges. 1 in 40 kids are now diagnosed with autism, and over 80% have daily sleep issues. Over half have seizures, self-harm issues, or run away from safe environments. And these issues, they don't only affect Josh, they affect his entire family, resulting in job loss, divorce, or having to move houses entirely. A root cause of these issues is Josh's sensory sensitivity. Many people with autism have issues processing their environmental stimuli. Sleep is constantly disrupted by stimuli from siblings, neighbors, or household activity. As well, the sensitivity can often result in a fight or flight response. Or in other words, they run out of the house or have meltdowns, or they may hurt themselves or harm others. Right now, families currently try to solve this in 2 main ways. The first are drugs, which are often prescribed as toddlers and can have terrible side effects. And the second are these professional products that essentially look like glorified cages and have 0 technology or sensory features. But what's validating is that these products have tens of millions of dollars in revenue, and they've already set up the insurance codes for us to be fully reimbursed at a $10,000 price point. We're taking a different approach. We're building smart beds that enable a person to completely control their sensory environment. The canopy blocks outside stimuli, creating a cozy, safe space. We then introduce soothing sensory input, such as light, sound, vibration, weighted blankets, and aromatherapy. To help with safety, we provide heavy padding for protection during meltdowns or seizures, and cameras linked to motion sensors that parents can remotely monitor. So far, we've built 15 prototypes, have a waiting list of over 500 families. I've raised some investment from strategic angel investors, and we just became FDA registered, which means we're ramping up to launch in the next few weeks. Thank you. So we have 2 main asks. The first is that we're looking for pilot organizations to help us prove out efficacy data for this product. And the second is that we are, in the next few months, ramping up to raise additional capital to help us scale. If this is something that interests you, I'd love to talk after the show so that we can help people like Josh and millions of others around the world. Thank you.
All right, we're getting so close to the end. Just 2 more of our venture presenters. Our next presenter wrote his first computer game. It was a text-based poker game on a computer in 1977, which was a few years before the first PC. His love for programming has served him well because he's carried it forward into his current venture, where he's combining that with social emotional learning. Please welcome Jim.
Thank you so much for your energy this late on. Get to our slides. So I am Jim Thomas, and I'm the Chief Technical Officer of Centervention, and I'm here this week with Tim Huntley, our CEO. And our mission is to build and improve children's, especially students, social and emotional skills through games. Surprise, surprise. So we're just thrilled and honored to be here with all the other great partners in the venture, and let me get to it. Now, it's going to take me a while to work up to this image, so bear with me. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation did a study where they followed a group of kindergartners all the way through to adulthood, multiple decades. And what they found is that the children who had higher levels of social competence in kindergarten were twice as likely to have a full-time job at age 25. Think about that. 4 times as likely to have a college degree. Now, we know from brain science that a lot of the architecture in the brain that underlies social and emotional processing develops rather rapidly in a burst between ages 3 and 5. So what happens when, that's typical. It typically develops in that range. But what happens when children are stuck in poverty, or have family instability, or have childhood trauma? We've heard a lot of these different things tonight. It diminishes and sometimes delays the development of those skills just as they're entering kindergarten. And so that's not fair. That's where we get back to this equity question. It's not fair that we treat all children equally, even though some children who have lower social and emotional skills effectively have a fence that's keeping them from their potential. Fortunately, Colorado is way ahead on this. Colorado is already nominated social and emotional development as one of the 6 key school readiness categories that are being tracked across all of Colorado, every student, as part of the CAP 4K process. So that includes the social and emotional development piece. There's literacy, math. The social and emotional development piece includes some of the skills you've heard about tonight: impulse control, emotion regulation, cooperation, and making and keeping friends. Well, it just so happens that the games that we've built at Centervention match exactly those skills. And I've been working in this area for 15 years because I saw that technology could help grow these social and emotional skills at scale. And that hadn't happened before. It was always being done one-on-one in small groups, and only with the kids that needed it most, when in fact we're seeing more and more kids that need it. And I'm really proud that at this point we are now delivering social emotional learning for grades K through 8 in many thousands of schools across the country and dozens of foreign countries as well. But it's not enough. So what you're seeing here is we have, through a lot of our research grants, done multiple randomized controlled trials, and that has proved the effectiveness of our grades to both improve these skills and also improve children's lives. What you're seeing up here is Zoo Academy. It's our latest game. It's specifically for school readiness, social emotional skills for kindergartners and first graders. So our ask is simple. Take out your phone or write this down really fast. That's our URL, that's our web address. And right now, what we want to do is raise the number of Coloradan students that are using our Zoo Academy game for kindergartners and first graders this year. We'd like to get that up to 10,000 students, and to enable that, we're giving it away totally for free through the end of this school year. So if there's anyone you can reach, or if you want to come up to us afterwards and give us ideas for how we can expand and meet this goal, we'd love to hear about it, because we want to help improve the lives of as many Coloradan students as possible this year. Thank you.
All right, we are to our last presenter. Before we welcome him to the stage, I have to tell you, as somebody who is working on an accelerator, the thing that I don't like about accelerators is that it's often lionizing and celebrating just the individual founder and not the team that is behind this organization. Aiden, come on up, come on up, come on up. I'm just going to do a quick little thing, then I'll introduce you. Okay. And so I just want to acknowledge that there's a big team behind each of these organizations. Can we acknowledge the teams that are making these entrepreneurs look great? And I think it's really important to acknowledge the team that has made Futurebound possible as well at this moment. So I just have a couple things, and this is going to take a minute, so just give me a second. You can do whatever you like. So GCI obviously has done an incredible job of bringing leadership here.
It's a long night.
This is our bit, yeah. I just want to acknowledge Stephanie Clother. She has brought such audacity into the space of early childhood. Of course, Sarah Beth, director of Futurebound. She's been amazing. And then there is an incredible team at GCI, Kate Brooks, Christina, Keller Ann. They're in the back being very humble. Can you just raise your hand, acknowledge? And of course, all under Dave's leadership. So congratulations to GCI. I want to acknowledge the Uncharted team as well. I can take maybe 1% of the credit for all the work that's happened on the Uncharted side this week and for the next 6 months as we work to support these organizations. So Zach Strom, I might get a little bit emotional. Zach Strom, Savannah Johnson have brought such leadership from Uncharted. Acknowledging them, please stand up. Where's Zach? And then we have a great team as well of Eric, who's been running logistics, Nicole, who's been doing all types of leadership around this event, AV, all of that, Anthony, Ash, and Teju as well. These are people that have made this night possible. Please acknowledge them, and please raise your hand if I've said your name. There is Promise Venture Studio and Matt and Gabe who've also contributed to this as well. Of course, the governor was here. Can we give a round of applause for the governor? And then slides have been brought to you by Consume and Create. Spark is helping on impact measurement. And so they're just a huge team that's making this all possible. That, of course, is just the introduction for our last presenter tonight. Are you ready? Are you ready? So this is Aiden. There are 3 things you know about Aiden. He's been on Shark Tank. He is an atypical Coloradan. So when you say the word pot, he thinks of ceramics because he throws pottery, he writes code, and he got his degree in jewelry and metalsmithing, which basically makes him a Colorado Renaissance man.
Yes.
Please welcome, without any further delay, our last presenter.
Hello, everyone. That is the longest I have ever had to stand on stage with nothing to do, so thank you very much. My name, as Banks said, is Aiden Chopra. I am one of the co-founders of Bitsbox. Bitsbox teaches kids to code. Does anybody not know what coding? Coding is just a fancy word for computer programming, right? The way we teach kids to code is by having them build their own apps. And the apps that they build with Bitsbox work on any device. They work on phones, tablets, they work on computers, everything. We work with kids from like 6 to 14 years old, and we work with kids in schools and at home. So, what makes what we do different? Well, it turns out that the hard part about teaching kids to code is getting them to stick with it. Coding is effing hard. It's hard. Has anybody tried to code? It's like hard. It's hard, and it takes months or years. So how do we keep kids engaged long enough to learn how to do really hard things like coding? Well, number one, we send everything in a beautiful box that arrives in the mail at home or at school. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's a gimmick. No, because have you ever seen a kid get a box at home? Does Christmas or Hanukkah ring a bell for you? No, right? It's very exciting. The thing comes in the mail, she opens it up. Oh my God, there's projects to do. She codes. We've got her for like days. Show me something else that does that. Number two, our platform is completely open-ended. You can build anything you want. Everybody knows what kids can do if you give them the right tools, right? Bitsbox is the best tool in the world for this. So we're here in Colorado and we're based in Boulder, and this is what we're gonna do for kids here in the backyard. Number one, we need people to help us fund scholarships to get bits boxes to kids who are a little bit less fortunate. Number one, okay? We've been around for a long time. We're really good at serving kids with money. We're not so good at serving kids without, so we need your help to do that. Number two, we need people to help us measure the efficacy of our system. And number three, this is the big one, we need your help, and the governor and the governor's proxies and people who are here, to help make computer science a mainstay of education in Colorado, because we are behind. We are behind, people. We are so behind. We don't have an adopted set of academic standards for CS education in this state. We don't have incentives for pre-service teachers to learn to teach computer science. We don't have any way to compensate or reward teachers who learn to teach computer science in this state. And we don't even require high schools in Colorado to teach computer science. And you're probably thinking, that's just like Massachusetts and California, right? No, we're behind Arkansas, we're behind South Carolina, we're behind Indiana, we're behind a whole bunch of other states, but it doesn't have to be that way. We would like you to help us make Colorado the best place in the world for kids who would like to build the technology of tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, pass it on. Can you click me? Click it forward. Okay, so officially we are finished with the venture presentations, but I wanted to bring us back to where we started this morning, which is about ecosystems and how Futurebound fits into a bigger picture in Colorado, because this work is about making those interconnections. So we've also invited tonight a gentleman, his name is Michael Beavis, and he is an entrepreneur himself. He speaks this language of building and growing ideas, but he's also leading innovation entrepreneurship in the city and county of Denver, helping think of entrepreneurial ecosystems, which Futurebound also fits into. Interestingly, I learned this when I talked to him the other day, he also has a degree in child development. How perfect is that? So I would like him to share some of the insights of how Futurebound looks in the bigger picture in Colorado and what he's focused on in his work, so we can start to see how this is part of a bigger picture together. Thanks for being here, Michael.
Thanks for having me. To the woman from Florida, this is called the Colorado tuxedo. That's how we stay warm in the wintertime. And Sarah Beth, I want to talk to you later. Maybe we can talk about bedazzling this so I can step it up a notch. So as Sarah mentioned, my name is Michael Beavis. I'm the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship for the City and County of Denver. I'm honored to be here on behalf of our mayor, Michael B. Hancock, and talk to you a little bit about Denver's entrepreneur ecosystem and where all of this kind of fits in. So as Sarah Beth mentioned, I've been an entrepreneur. Actually, I started my first business when I was 12 years old on kind of a dare. So how many people in here know what mistletoe really is? Okay. It's actually a fungus that grows from bird poop. So when I learned that, I'm from Southern California, so I had to trade in my flip-flops as well. But when I learned that, I was hiking through the woods with my dad, and he was explaining to me what it was. And it grows up way high in these trees, in oak trees in California. And he explained to me what it was, and I looked at him, and we kind of always had this kind of challenging approach with each other. I said, I bet you I could sell that, right? He told me it's a fungus that grows from bird poop. I can sell that. He dared me to do it. I crawled up the tree with his pocket knife and cut down this huge bushel of mistletoe, drug it home in his truck, chopped it up, put it in a baggie, stood outside of a Toys R Us. You guys, some people remember Toys R Us, right? A Toys R Us, and made $700 in my first week. So, and kind of from that day forward, I always realized, hey, I have a little bit of control over this, right? If I can be creative and I can come up with cool ideas, and one thing led to another. As Sarah Beth mentioned, I did go on to pursue more degrees in college than I like to admit in public. And one of those was in early childhood development, because I was a young single father of 2 children, and I was pouring money into a daycare system to realize that my kids were just watching videos all day long. And I thought, for sure, there's got to be a better method to this. So I kind of studied that a little bit, and then ultimately went on and did a master's degree doing a business analysis between starting a daycare from scratch and licensing one or franchising one. So I do have a little bit of background on that, and all of these businesses kind of resonate with me a little bit because, again, kind of my own journey. I then later went on and wrote my PhD on the effectiveness of using social in emotional learning to improve emotional intelligence in executive leaders. So in short, I was teaching adult children to be better adult children. So I'm honored to be part of all of this, and thank you, Gary Community Investments and Futurebound, for the diligence that you have and the vision that you have to kind of create a better system. And how amazing was Luciana tonight? So she had me back there kind of teary-eyed a little bit. So I get emotional on kind of only three things. So when people talk about doing good things for children, doing good things for animals, because that's what my current startup is related to a dog product, and dance shows. So there you have it, a little peek into my inner psyche. So there you have it. But ultimately, so in my role with the City and County of Denver, it's my job to create an ecosystem that allows entrepreneurs to thrive in Denver. So the position was created just over a year ago because Denver is, as you know, is a rapidly growing city, and they're fostering the growth and development of early stage startup companies all the way up to the Fortune 500 companies. And with the attention that Denver's been getting, they realized they needed a full-time position in this role. And I was fortunate enough to be the first person into this role. And so I do all kinds of things, from overseeing the Commons on Champa. If you're not familiar with that, it's a public-private partnership. Free co-working space. We offer free advisory hours. We can coach any and all of you in any industry, any sector. We have subject matter expertise all across our organization to help with that. I oversee a small business lending program that we offer through the city to help organizations as they grow and they're not quite yet bankable, to fill some of the funding gap that they need. I run a program that's called Scale Up, so it's really kind of like a post-accelerator program. I take founders and CEOs of companies that have gone through an accelerator program. They typically have raised some outside capital to the tune of about $500 to $2.5 million. And I take them over that 6-month period and help them solve their 3 biggest pain points so that they can scale to the next level, whether it be 10 million, 20 million, 50, whatever their benchmark is, and we help them solve that problem. And then on the far end of the spectrum, I'm looking to create what I'm calling an innovation space. I'm not calling it a center or a district or a hub or a pavilion or anything else that's currently mislabeled out there, because there's no true innovation that's happening in that space. But it will be a physical space in town that combines large corporate entities working alongside one-person startups. Additionally, it will have a shared lab component where companies can vie for the opportunity to utilize the lab equipment into there under programming and mentorship and guidance to help get through their R&D process and develop out an MVP. Because that's oftentimes where we see companies fail out. And I know many of you in this room have felt that pain. Lots of excitement and energy at the front end through the Accelerator program. You raise some outside capital and realize, oh no, we've run out of capital paying for lease space and buying lab equipment to get through this process. So we want to help solve that problem a little bit, amongst many other things. So in the year that I've been here, I started an entrepreneurship program for high school students. It's an 8-week-long program. I raised outside capital for that, and those students actually go through a live pitch event, and they have the opportunity to win free seed money, because I want to whet their appetite a little bit earlier and get them involved, because I know for a fact that if Bitsbox was around when I was a kid, I wouldn't be selling bird poop. So let's get them involved earlier on in that process. And I just charge all of you in this room tonight to become active participants in this ecosystem and the future that we are trying to create for these children. Because being here and absorbing the information is one thing, and it's fantastic, but being an active participant is going to take all of us in order to excel all of these amazing businesses to the next level. So thank you again for your time tonight.
Well, that leaves us with the question of, so what? Now what? What do we do? Where do we go from here? That's the question, right?
It is.
We have to wrap this up. The first and easiest thing is really to reach out to the ventures, right? They want to connect with you, you want to connect with them. So we're going to have networking the rest of the evening. So that's an easy one. If you want to find them afterwards, you can look at the Futurebound website. We have all the ventures listed. You can reach out through that or through LinkedIn. Umbrella, of course, that great online app we're using. But if you want to come tomorrow, we have more events for the Futurebound Summit Thursday and Friday. There are catalyst sessions and unbounded talks, specifically the ecosystem fair. Oh, there we go. Will be in the afternoon tomorrow at Clayton Early Learning, and all the ventures will be there along with a lot of other ecosystem stakeholders to mix and mingle and combine and have some more social and hopefully just connection time. So that will be a great opportunity. Of course, get on our newsletter. That's how we're going to send updates and share information as we evolve and grow and learn and come up with new things and want to communicate with you more. So those are the best ways to take action after tonight. I really want to thank Banks. This has been a blast. Can we give everyone a round of applause? Thank you.
We also want to bring up all the entrepreneurs to the stage so we can acknowledge and celebrate them. Come on up, or just stand around here.
Come on. Everybody up. All the entrepreneurs.
Come on up, come on up, come on up. If you are a staff member of GCI or Uncharted, please come on up as well. Stand around so we can acknowledge you.
Everybody who's helped put on the summit, who's part of the cohort or part of Futurebound, please come up. We really want to recognize you. This is a team. This is a huge team. This is good. Yeah, put it. I love the name tag.
Get on up there.
This is the ecosystem in action, and you are part of it too, so we should be taking photographs of you as well. Let's do a big selfie. We've got photos. Thank you. There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Woo!